Charlie, here's a guy, Warren, who plays the ukulele. I remember the year that he rode the steer. You weren't too thrilled. What do you think of all of these antics?
I love the annual meeting.
Yeah.
It's a very peculiar thing. There's never been anything quite like it in the history of capitalism in the whole world. And of course we like it. People are having a good time, and I think everybody's trying to leave here a little wiser than when they came. If you can do those two things at once,
well,
it's not to like.
Here's Warren playing the ukulele. I don't know if you could hear him singing, the train song. That was unbelievable because the crowd was going crazy. And at one point he said, "Everybody sing along." Did you rehearse this?
No. Well, no. Actually, the Kuby sisters came by on Friday morning to make sure our instruments were in tune with each other and that we were all on the same page on that. But they were great to work with, and that is the trick, is to get a great band behind you.
Warren got his first wife by playing the ukulele.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a very important instrument to him.
I was willing to spend $30 on the whole thing.
And it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Of course, he did it to woo the bride's father, but what the hell, Warren will use any technique that will work.
One of the things that I noticed this year, Charlie, was that between the two of you there was an interesting dynamic, and it wasn't that there were disagreements, but there were differences, particularly with derivatives. You spoke out very strongly against derivatives. In fact, I can quote, you said, Warren has said we only have 250 derivatives contracts. It's about 63 billion in the grand scheme of things. It's not that many. Charlie, you said, I see no social constructive advantage to any of this. People on the other side of the map like Joan of Arc, they are not Joan of Arc.
Yeah, I said they were like Darth Vader. and I don't think this massive derivative trading net has a social advantage to our civilization. Not that there's nothing good about them, it's just that the risks and troubles they create and the phony accounting they create does us more harm than good. And I think to some extent we're learning that from recent experience, except we're learning it too slowly. It's an article of faith in America with a lot of people that because consenting adults like to do this stuff, it must be good. And I don't think it follows that because consenting adults do it, it's good.
If you had your way, Charlie, would you eventually get rid of all derivatives on
Oh, if
Berkshire's
I'd
book?
been running the world, we wouldn't have had them.
Warren?
Well, if Charlie had been running the world, we wouldn't have had much of anything. I mean, but I think Charlie would agree that in the grain market, there's a
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think metals, foreign exchange.
Sure.
But there has, well, the great development in derivatives that were gambling contracts occurred in 1982. I wrote a 4-page letter to Congressman Dingell at that time, who was on the same side I was, but basically saying this is going to turn Wall Street into much more of a casino. And it has. With the S&P 500 contract, when it was put in April of 1982, it enabled all kinds of people, unsophisticated people, to gamble on what the stock market was going to do 10 minutes from now on very, very low margin. We decided that was a terrible idea back in the aftermath of 1929, but it sailed through, it's prospering. Billions of dollars are bet every day by people. To me, there's no social purpose, basically, to that. Now, you can come up with some involved theory why it enables people to hedge out the risks of the market and all that, but that's not what's going on, and in large part. And we did come out against it 28 years ago.
Charlie, you just said we're moving too slowly to fix the problem. We're talking about government regulation, which at this very week, they begin to debate it on the floor of the Senate. What do you think really needs to be in there? Should we require banks to hold more capital? Should we require collateral for all derivatives?
Well, I happen to agree with Paul Volcker that we ought to just forbid these people who are directly or indirectly using the government's credit from having these big proprietary books, period.
When you say these people, do you mean financial institutions?
Yes.
Yeah, people have FDIC guarantee, which FDIC, even though it's paid for by the banks, but the government backstops it, and so you are getting the government's credit when you put a deposit in a bank.
Any big institution using the government's credit and containing big proprietary trading where the successful proprietary traders get more and more power and are allowed to use more and more leverage year after year, will cause blow-ups from time to time that are terrible for the rest of us. Why on earth should we allow this?
Well, the guys on Wall Street are fighting fiercely against this.
Of course, they're like a diver when you step on the air hose. Of course, they don't want anybody to take away their air hose. Sure. And it's a particularly good air hose because not only do they make money, but they can report that they're making more money than they really are. Well, that's a lovely combination.
Well, they want better compensation. They want the compensation based on their profits.
Of course.